The last exercise that you will have to do for next week's class is to do a texture study. And the way that we're going to do this is by using this photograph that I have converted to black and white that has lots of texture and value tones to it. And how you're going to start this is you're going to take a clean sheet of 8.5 by 11 paper, which we started in class, fold it in half, and then what you're going to do is you're going to measure 3/4 of an inch, 1.5 inches wide along the fold of the paper, and draw a line down. And then you're going to measure into the page 3/4 of an inch from the fold. And what you will do next is cut out this little panel. So after you've cut out this shape out of the folded page, you will end up with a window that's 1.5 by 1.5 inches. And we're going to use this to find an area on this photograph that I gave you that you are going to use as a subject for a value tone study on drawing paper. So once you've decided where you want the image to, which section of this photo you want to replicate, take a little piece of tape and tape it down so it doesn't move on you. And then go to your drawing paper and measure off very lightly an 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches square. Now you can use your triangle to get a nice right angle by lining it up with the guideline that you've created, and then you'll get something that's reasonably square. So now that you have your square and you have your subject, it's a matter of attempting to replicate what you see in this square. And you can start by putting in very faint guidelines, because basically this is going to end up as a tone drawing. Start over a little farther. And you can start to put in the basic shapes very lightly, because in the end we do not want to see any pencil lines at all. We just want to see changes in value as you're working. I don't know how you can see this. I want to make sure you can see this as I'm working. Okay? So very faint lines, just to give you some sense of location of where things are. And then what you'll start to do is you'll start to put in your values, figuring out where the darks are and where the lights are. And I would recommend that you start by filling in shapes fairly evenly with a tone, and then build up the value as you go along. So this will take some time because you're going to have to think about your values. So start light and build them up and build them up. Okay, at this point, I have already started to tone in some of my areas using my value scale to check where the darks or how dark I have to make some of the pencil values. Now, because I started this rendering with a 2H pencil, I know that I'm not going to be able to get these really dark darks that we're looking at when we match the photograph to the value scale. So it means that I'm going to have to go in and I'm going to have to change pencils. So instead of doing a 2H, I may drop back to an HB and start to work my tones with the HB pencil. And if you start to get some of that shimmering that we talked about in class, where we start to see the white paper because of the softness of the pencil, you can always go back in again and switch back to the harder pencil to fill in those little deep crevices that don't seem to want to fill in when you're working with a softer pencil. So that's basically the project. It's a matter of time getting these images to be exactly as you want them to be. But what you should end up with is something that's really quite interesting and actually quite nice. Just take your time and do a really careful job doing just tonal studies. This could take you several hours to do, so don't be discouraged and don't try to do it too quickly. It's really much more important that you do a nice, accurate rendering of this photograph. And that is the end of Class 2 homework.